This is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections. If you like my videos, please hit the red subscribe button. Today I'd like to talk about de-escalation. I've been watching the show 60 Days In. I guess it's kind of my guilty pleasure. And one of the things I noticed on there is absolutely no de-escalation techniques used anywhere along the line. Now, as a police officer or a correctional officer, and in this video I'm going to use the term officer as a generic term referring to both, de-escalation is essential. Probably 30 years ago, I went to an FBI hostage negotiation school. Of course, now they're not hostage negotiators, they're crisis negotiators because that's politically correct. Well, one of the things I learned statistically, that in 80% of the cases that are resolved through force, someone is hurt. Whether it's an officer, whether it's an inmate, whether it's a suspect, someone is hurt. In 95% of the cases where negotiations are used as a means of de-escalation, nobody's hurt. That should tell us all something right there. We need to talk to people. Now, one of the things I've noticed over the years, and I don't mean this to demean police officers, but the best police officers I know started in corrections. And one of the reasons for that is because in corrections, you have to learn how to talk to people. You don't have a gun, you don't have a vest, a lot of times you don't have batons, tasers, things of that nature. I know in Wisconsin, a state correctional officer carries handcuffs and they carry OC, and that's only something that's come up within the last 5 years. Supervisors carry tasers. Now I know in some institutions, particularly California, I don't know about New Jersey, New York, officers carry batons, they carry Mark 9s, they carry cuffs, they're stab vests, they're pretty well equipped for everything. But correctional officers have to learn how to talk to people. You have to learn how to de-escalate a situation. Now, through the course of my years working in corrections, I've been in a lot of situations where de-escalation techniques were necessary. Whether it was on cell entries, whether it was talking somebody down who's suicidal. I can't begin to count the number of times I've talked somebody down from jumping off the top tier or hanging themselves or cutting their wrists. And, that's what I had to do at that time. We didn't have any other means of force. Now I know if an inmate is seen in his cell and he's starting to cut his wrists, chemical agents are applied. OC, they're sprayed and then an entry is made as quick as possible. That's done to prevent injury to the inmate. That's done due to the immediate threat. We didn't have that years ago. Now, we all know people who will go into a situation and rather than talk to the person, they'll use force immediately. Now, there are situations that call for that. I'm not saying you stand back and you try to talk your way out of every situation. That'd be absolutely asinine. As a police officer, if someone's coming at me with a deadly weapon, I'm not going to talk to them. I'm not going to say, sir, what can I do to make you follow my legal lawful order? I'm going to shoot their ass. If I have to, I'm going to shoot them. I'm going to protect my life. I'm going to protect the lives of others. However, if that person is threatening suicide, I'm probably not going to use force right away. I'm going to try to talk to them. Now, we all know the people who kind of like push buttons. I had a lieutenant that worked under me when I was a captain, and he was a great one for pushing buttons. I recall situations where the officer would have the inmate talk down. The officer would de-escalate the situation. They'd have the inmate in handcuffs. The lieutenant would go down to the scene, as is required in Wisconsin. A lieutenant or a captain has to be at the scene. And for whatever reason, that lieutenant liked whispering sweet nothings in the ear of whomever was in handcuffs. Now, I don't know what he said, but 90% of the time, whatever it was he said, pissed that inmate off enough so that all of a sudden it became a use of force. And either the inmate was hurt, an officer was hurt, and it was just totally unnecessary. There were staff who hated going on emergency calls with this person because they knew every emergency call they went on was going to turn into a use of force. Now, I talked to the person, to my lieutenant about it numerous times. Security director talked to him about it numerous times. And unfortunately, it ended up with him being asked to retire early because of it. We need to de-escalate situations. It's not our job to go in and aggravate people who are already aggravated. It's our job to maintain the security of the institution. It's our job to maintain the safety of the people on the streets. It's not our job to stir the pot. We've all been in situations where you'd like nothing better than to just go in and tear that person apart. When I worked at a medium security institution as a sergeant, I was a leader of a cell extraction team. Now, this institution was a treatment institution. So if we had an inmate refusing to move from his cell, the sergeant would talk to him, the lieutenant would talk to him, the captain would talk to him, the unit social worker would talk to him, a psychologist would talk to him, the unit manager would talk to him, and if none of that worked, it went back to the captain. I can recall times where I was suited up for probably close to 2 hours, 90-degree weather, wearing full riot gear, myself and 4 other guys, just sweating our butts off while they're talking to them. A lot of times it was resolved successfully, but in a prison, you can't tie up that many staff for that long. Conversely, I worked in a maximum security institution, and if we had a problem with an inmate who, say, was refusing to come out of his cell, the lieutenant would talk to him, then I'd talk to him, and if it didn't come out, we had a team suited up, and the lieutenant would go in and take care of it. Now, once again, 90% of the time, by the time either myself or the lieutenant talked to him after the sergeant was done, they would come out. It was a peaceful resolution. No one got hurt. So just remember, when you're dealing with individuals, remember de-escalation techniques. Remember, you're not there to create a situation. You're there to solve a situation. Don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. Until next time, this is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections.